And good morning, basketball fans, and welcome to the Upstate Hoops Podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. I'm Jim Sinacropi, joined by my co-host Matt Verkey with another big show on tap. We'll recap all the week's action, including the 2-0 league starts from Naples, Dundee, North Rose-Wolcott, and East Rochester. We'll also look back at some big games and some big games on tap this week in the Finger Lakes East especially. We'll give you our players of the week, or we'll reveal our updated FL1 Sports Wayne Finger Lakes Power Rankings and Girls Super 6. All that and more this week on the Upstate Hoops Podcast. Verk, welcome back in studio. How you doing?
Good. Good morning.
It was fun to see some basketball this week, full slate of games. Wayne County, Finger Lakes West kind of really in full swing. Finger Lakes East getting into the swing this week. But the one thing that I kind of took away as our lead topic would be that, Naples is off to a 4-0 start, 2-0 in league. They've extended their regular season winning streak now to 25 games, kind of reminiscent of Minders a few years ago when they were in the West, and then for 1 year in the East, they had a really long league winning streak. So Naples won 25 straight regular season games. Their last loss coming back on January 20th, 2014, when they lost to Bloomfield. And over that stretch, Mick Salter's Big Green Machine is 26-1, the only loss coming to RCMCS in last year's Class C3 semifinals. The biggest of the wins for Naples this week came on Wednesday night at home against Marcus Whitman, where they won 61-51 against a team that we had ranked higher than them in the power rankings last week, and gives Naples an early inside track on the back-to-back Finger Lakes West titles. So how about the Big Green?
I think coming into the season, we didn't know what to expect from them with the losses they suffered. Losing 3 or 4 starters off a great team. That RCMCS game that they lost was a great high school basketball game that Naples very, very well could have won and advanced on. And but obviously, Coach Nick Salter's done it again. He's got this team rolling. I thought Whitman was going to be one of the better teams in the West this year, given that they're a B school playing mostly all C and D schools, and they had a pretty good record last year in the West. But Naples handled them by 10 points. So yeah, early on, I would think this gives Naples definitely puts them as the front runner in the West, and I look for continued success from the Naples Big Green.
Yeah, they lose Isaiah Tilley. They lost Garrett Hoyt, Jason Pulver, off of obviously a very good team, but guys have stepped up. Zach Dormer, kind of the first time I really noticed Zach Dormer was during that RCMCS game. He played pretty well. We had 26 against Whitman, 17 versus Jasper Tropsburg, Conrad Rathbun, another guy with 18 points. And then we knew Andrew Fleischman could shoot it. He had 25 points against HAC on Friday. And then Jake Chapman, 18 points versus Jasper, 15 points versus HAC. So, Naples looks to have rebounded from the graduations last year. And with that win over Whitman, I don't think anybody's going to touch them in the West. So,
yeah, it's still early. There's some other decent teams out there. So we'll see how it all plays out. But definitely a front runner.
And maybe one of the teams that could challenge him is Dundee. Les Miller's squad's also off to a 2-0 start. They beat Bloomfield on Wednesday and got a 10-point win at the Jack Guinan Gym against South Seneca on Friday night. So that'll be a marquee matchup when those two teams meet. So good job, Naples, off to a great start. The Upstate Hoops Podcast and all our coverage of Wayne Finger Lakes High School basketball is brought to you thanks to the support from Generations Bank with locations in Auburn, Farmington, Geneva, Phelps, Seneca Falls, Union Springs, and Waterloo. Check out their mobile banking app and visit them online at mygenbank.com. And by FLCC. Thinking about life after high school? Get your degree at Finger Lakes Community College. And, of course, by Dr. Rod Littlejohn, delivering over 30 years of smiles with style. So let's kind of, now that we're into the season and we got our format set for the show, first thing we're going to do almost every week is kind of rewind the action, league by league. And let's start it off with the Finger Lakes East, where on, I think it went back to Monday, the only league game so far played in the Finger Lakes East was Waterloo and Penn Yan. And Penn Yan came away with a 58-56 win. led by Sean Emerson's 22. John McKay had 12. Dylan Stape had 12. For Waterloo, Big Ben Deming, 17 points. Dikembe Air, 16. And Nick Stenberg, 15. Let's talk about that one just a little bit, Verk. We thought that Waterloo might be able to contend for the title. We thought that Penn Yan would be good, but really these were two of the teams we had bunched in the middle of our projected standings. And Waterloo goes down to Penn Yan, only loses by 2, but a big early season win for the Mustangs.
Yeah, that's a good early season test for both of those schools. And I think they're going to be in every game this year in the East. Both schools have some very talented players. Waterloo has a lot of experience on that team. They got 2-3 kids who've been on varsity since freshman, sophomore year. So this is kind of the year that they've kind of been targeting to make some noise in the Finger Lakes East. And, Penn Yan's always got a bunch of tough kids. They were tough last year, and they brought 2 or 3 of those guys back and mixed in with some JV players and some of the kids from the bench last year. And, I look for Penn Yan to be, right there with Waterloo. And, either one of those schools could be at anybody in the East, I think, on any given night. And, they could obviously also lose to any schools. I think, I think that's what we're going to see in the East this year is a lot of, it's still shaking out. Palmyra might be maybe the favorite in that now after they're showing in that tournament. It's tough to judge. Minders, Newark, I think those would be my top 3, I would have to guess. And, after that, there's a bunch of schools right behind them. Right
down to the bottom of the standings this year. I don't think there's anybody's getting a night off in the East. Speaking of Minders, they're number 1 in our power rankings this week. They got a pretty big win against a real athletic early college team in Seneca Falls on Tuesday night, or maybe it was Monday. 42-40. Jake Mean hits a shot at the buzzer. They're only points of the fourth quarter.
You were there, so Minders entered the fourth quarter ahead 40-30, and they won 42-40.
Yeah,
probably not how you want to close out a game, but that's a good test for Minders. They're playing an athletic team, maybe a team like they might see in sectionals in like a RCMCS, early college. From talking to you and everybody, had some really good athletes, and that's a good challenge for Minders. Obviously, I don't think they played as crisply as they would have liked to.
Yeah.
But still to come out with a win. Jake Main, give him credit. He was able to get that final bucket in, and Minders came away with the win.
And it was a type of thing where you're really happy to win, but you look at it and you make a buzzer beater for your only points in the fourth quarter. And Jake Jones with a school record 8 3-pointers, 6 of them coming in the first half. So that you have to wonder if it was another night when maybe Jake Jones wasn't shooting so good.
Right. Hats off to Jake. That's a great game for him, and it's got to give him some.
That's
confidence.
Something you never did. 8 threes in one game.
No, not even close. I think he had 6 a couple times.
So when you scored, what was it, 63 against Mid-Lakes? 60 against Mid-Lakes. You only had 6 threes.
Yeah, a lot of layups, a lot of steals, breakaways, and layups. And I was 6'4" in high school, so I scored a lot inside and driving to the basket and stuff. And we shot a lot of threes but today's game they shoot a lot more. It seems like it's very 3-oriented lately, and our team shot a ton. So, but that's a good win for Minders, and congratulations Jake Jones. That's a great game for him, and he's going to have to be a key factor for Minders going forward in that rotation.
And I, for a while there, I thought like Jake might make 23s the way he was shooting, but I think that kind of, you come out and you don't really expect to be that hot, and then after maybe 5 or 6 of them, you start thinking about it. You start adding them up maybe, and you just got to let it flow, baby.
That's right.
Some other results in the East. Mid-Lakes beat Bath Haverling 52-37. Sophomore point guard Bryce Burry had 20 points. Mid-Lakes 2-0. Good for them. Minders got another win this week against Rochester Academy CS 64-34. Jake Mean had 18 points, 11 rebounds in that one. RCMCS and Pelmac was a game that we were looking at, excited to see the results, and it was no contest. Pelmac 76, RCMCS 55.
Yeah, kind of, I think we had RCMCS targeted as, everybody coming back, but looking at the box score, they're missing a couple kids from last year's team.
Yeah, Amos Williams, the big name they have back.
Yeah, he's their best player. He's probably an all-grader Rochester type player. That kind of bodes well for some of our local teams and Minders and North Rose who are in their class in sectionals. If they're down a little bit this year, because they're going to be the horse coming back that everybody's kind of looking at in that B2 with North Rose and Minders. So maybe they are down a little bit, but I'm sure they'll be at the end of the year. They're going to have a good team. And, Brandon Hawkins with a great game, 25 points, Damian Wright. Paul Mack probably has the best backcourt, I would say, in the Finger Lakes East.
Yeah, no doubt.
Those guys can shoot. They can get to the hole.
Guys like Hunter Vandervelde and Holden Knorr as well.
Yeah, a lot of shooters, a lot of guards.
Yeah, it was really – the biggest takeaway for me this week, I think, was how impressive Pale Mack was. Another kind of – I don't know if it's a surprise. The Dave Baldwin Memorial Tournament in Victor – is something that we webcast and were at last year. We couldn't make it this year, but it's a really nice showcase of Finger Lakes East teams in Geneva, Newark, and Pale Mack against some Rochester teams, and Victor, of course, is always involved. And Newark took on Wilson Magnet and lost pretty handily, 77 to 62, a 15-point loss, despite 7 3-pointers from Brian Sharp, who ended up with 31 points. And then also on the second round, Newark dropped a 12-point decision to Victor, tournament host, despite 11 from Taylor Clements and 10 from Jose Santel. So Newark starts their season 0-2, not in league, but
yeah, and they went out and challenged themselves early. Playing. I don't know a lot about Wilson. We'll see how the season plays out, but Wilson handled him pretty good, and that's despite 31 from Brian Sharp. Right. And I've been hearing a lot of good things about Newark from other coaches and stuff like that.
Me too. That's why I was a little surprised.
They worked hard over the summer, and look out for these kids. Some of the role players were really going to step up this year, which I wouldn't put too much into this. Wilson might be one of the better teams in Rochester for all we know, but a little alarming. And then in that, Paul Mack played Wilson to 2 points, and Wilson really handled Newark pretty good. And then Victor's a team who. It just seems like they're good in every other sport but basketball every year. They win state championships, lacrosse. They're good in football, baseball, and their basketball team always seems to be a little bit behind the rest of the sports.
Coach Downey's been working on it.
Yeah, he'll do a great job there. And if anybody's going to do it, Coach Downey will. His dad was a legendary coach at a few different schools, mostly Livonia. They beat us in the 91 final in sectionals. Coach Downey's Livonia team did, but I'm sure he'll get that program righted. And they're in a tough league playing in Monroe County for Victor, and there's no gimmies in Monroe County. So good win for Victor, and hopefully Coach Downey, he's getting that program going in the right direction. Also,
in the first day at the Belden tournament in Victor beat Geneva 51-41. Let's round out the stuff in Victor here. Geneva also lost to Livonia 63-51, so 0-2 for Brian Miller's Panthers, who, they lost to North Rose. Now they lose these 2 games. I feel like this is a Geneva team that could go either way. They could either totally go in the tank and finish right at the bottom of the East, or they have the talent, maybe to put it together and do well in league and even contend maybe for a league title. I really think this is a team that could go either way.
They played Victor and Livonia in that tournament?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so, they start off North Rose-Wolcott, Victor, Livonia. No easy games there. And, Rick Allen's a kid. Isn't he one of the guards you saw that play last year?
One of the best shooters I've ever seen.
He was a good player. So, Geneva's biggest problem looking at their scores, they don't score. They're getting 50, 55 points a game. They're going to be – they got good athletes. They play hard. They're a defensive-minded team. They just need some guys to put the ball in the basket, and Coach Miller will get that figured out, I'm sure. And things don't really get any easier for him with Minders coming up Wednesday. So
we'll be there.
They're starting the game, starting the season with 4 tough ones.
All right, rounding out the action in the East this week, we had let's see here, where did we leave off? Penn Yan picked up a win against Bath Haverling, 64-26. Dillon State had 20 points, 18 in the second half. The Wayne Eagles with a nice little win over World of Inquiry, 59-42. Breeden Zenilovic had 18 points there. And that's all the action in the East. Take a quick look here at the standings in the East. And only 1 league game, so Penn Yan in first for now, Waterloo in last, everybody else tied in the middle. Next week when we look at the standings in the East, it'll shake out a lot different with a lot of big games coming up that we'll get to near the end of the show. So let's move ahead to the Finger Lakes West, where there was a ton of action. We had Honeoye defeating the Destiny Christians 74-49. Jake Saladay had 16 points. Naples beat Jasper Troutsburg 64-50. Dundee over Bloomfield in a pretty big early game for a couple teams in the West that are looking to finish in the top 2, 3, maybe contend. Dundee 55-49. Ryan Sprague had 19. Jordan Conyers had 9. For Bloomfield, Hayden Ward had 19. That loss dropped Bloomfield to 0-3. Honeoye then beat HAC 52-38 behind 15 from Jake Soliday. And then in the big game that we talked about earlier, Naples 61, Marcus Whitman 51. I should mention for Whitman, Jay Donovan had 23 points. I believe he's a freshman.
Yeah, I think I saw that as well.
Played last year got brought up for sectionals as an 8th grader. So now, pretty impressive. There's a lot of young guys in the league, and we'll talk about one of our favorites when we get to Wayne County. Red Jacket beat Romulus 67-35 behind 12 points from Munn, 11 points from Amos. Kyle Bennett had 10 for Romulus. Naples beat HAC, as we mentioned earlier, 66-46. That one, Jake Fleischman had 25, and Jake Chapman had 15. For HAC, it was Evan Weaver with 10 points, 11 rebounds, and Jamar Paisley with 9 points, 9 assists. Whitman takes on Romulus in Whitman, 64-38. The Wildcats win. With that game that we had Gavin Mikomiski, the power forward, 7 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks. Not bad. And Donovan there had 13 in that one. Bloomfield beat Honeoye. A little rivalry game there. Wyatt Conklin had 25 points. Cole Loomis for Honeoye had 16 points, 8 rebounds. John Marble with 13. So that was a 57-52 win for Bloomfield. And then Dundee moved to 2-0 on Friday night with a win over South Seneca, 51-41. Lincoln Beckman Lowe had 12 points for South Seneca, and for Dundee, Ryan Sprague had 16. Bobby Straight had 11. So, Verk, let's take a look here at the standings in the Finger Lakes West, where there actually has been quite a few league games so far. And we have Naples up top, tied with Dundee. Fouled by Red Jacket with that one win over Romulus, and then a big old logjam in the middle of the league standings with Bloomfield, Whitman, Honeoye, and then you got South Seneca at 0-1, HAC and Romulus at 0-2. So, looking at these standings, I still think Whitman will play a role. I think we'll get back in there to the mix with Naples and Dundee, but that Naples-Dundee matchups are going to be big, and I think Bloomfield's a lot better than people are getting credit for, and Honeoye also looks to be improved, even though they're they got them at 2-1 out of league, 1-1 in league. So the West's pretty interesting this year. But honestly, I'm gonna find it hard for anybody to challenge Naples. Maybe Dundee.
Yeah, I think early on, Naples definitely, off to a 2-0, 4-0 start. Obviously, an early favorite here. We really didn't know much about that league coming into how it all shake out, where everybody would be, but. If there's some early games, I think Naples is definitely going to, have a good chance to win that league.
So then move it over to Wayne County, where early off, kicking off the week out of the league, it was Red Creek defeating Cato Meridian 74-43. Nick Klein with 18 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals. Not bad. Willie Meyer, 29 points, 11 rebounds. Gananda beat Marion 77-39. Kyle Lombardozzi had 25 points for Gananda. North Rose-Wolcott all over Clyde, 72-53. Elijah Durham had 14 points. Luke Gerstner, 18. Tyler Norris, 19. Garrett Hoyt, 14 points, 21 rebounds in that game. And, Clyde, North Rose over the past several years, Clyde's really, dominated that kind of is a rivalry. They're neighbors.
Sure. Last year, Clyde beat them last year, and it caused them probably to lose the Wayne County Championship because it gave them 3 losses. The big guy for North Rose didn't play, and Clyde was able to upset them. So North Rose got a little revenge this year.
And then we moved down to a game that you called with Dave Barnick. Red Creek defeating Lions 54-51 in the Atwood. First time I think Red Creek's beaten Lions in about 7 years. As a matter of fact, last year Red Creek won the title, but they did lose to Lions twice. And Red Creek outscored Lions 25-16 in the fourth quarter. Nick Klein had 19 points. Willie Meyer had 12 for Lions. Devin Franklin had 14. And Justice Smith, Burke, had 21. And Lions was also in action later this week against East Rochester in the Atwood, and ER pulled out a 2-point victory, 59-57. Anna Van Buskirk got stripped of the ball late. East Rochester scores in transition. Keith Butler had 20, Ty Jones had 14, and for Lions, Devin Franklin had 16, Justice Smith with 14, including 9 of 10 free throws. And let's just take a second here and talk about Justice Smith, freshman point guard who doesn't look like a freshman. He's one of the most composed players you'll see in any age group in high school. He's got the rec specs on. He's about 6'2", would you say 6'1", 6'2"?
Yeah, 6'1", 6'2".
And, really under control, smart decisions. One time in that Red Creek game, late, they were trying to come back late, and Justice Smith had a chance to shoot a 3, and he decided against it and drove in and took the easy 2, and then the Lions put the press back on. Ended up being quite a finish on FL1 Sports. And, I just can't believe this kid's composure and his confidence. What was your impressions of Justice Smith after seeing a couple games?
Yeah, he obviously he has the ability, and the biggest thing to me is this year he's done a really good job of keeping his composure. Even in Red Creek when things started to go bad for Lions, he kept his head and really made some smart plays down the stretch, like you said, and. He's going to be around for the next 4 years. He's going to be a great player in that league. He handles the ball well. And the thing to me that stands out is he gets by people. He doesn't seem like he's that quick, but he can get by people. He's got a great handle. He's an adequate shooter. He can shoot the 3, knock down a couple threes, and he really doesn't force it too much. He takes what the defense gives him. He's a willing passer. If somebody's open, they're going to get the ball. So Zach Young's got to feel pretty good about the point guard position for the next 4 years for the Lions.
Yeah, and as we always love David Hunter. Obviously, exciting, interesting, great player that we got to watch for so many years when he broke out as a sophomore in the sectionals at the Blue Cross. But this kid, he's just getting started. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like watching Justice Smith over the next 4 years or how good he can be. And I know that Lions has a lot of young talent in their program. So it's definitely exciting to see a young kid like Justice Smith get off to such a great start to his career. Also in Wayne County this week, ER beat Williamson 88-55. Keith Butler had 23 in that one. Chavez Gaines had 18. Casey Mike Michelle had 18, and Calvin McDermott had 10. Sodus lost to World of Inquiry 42-30. You mentioned East Rochester beat Lions. North Rose-Wolcott beat Red Creek. Red Creek, after beating Lions, heads host North Rose-Wolcott in a huge early season game for both teams. Red Creek suffering a lot of losses last year in Griffin Klein and, of course, Jake Slobe. But this was a test for them. Big win for North Rose. Tyler Norris had 21. Garrett Hoyt had 10. Nick Klein had 15 for Red Creek. Willie Myers, 11 points, 12 rebounds. Williamson beat Sodus 51-44, the win moved Williamson to 1-1. Jack Devendorf had 14. Nigel Cobb had 14 for Sodus. Andrew Hines had 14 as well. And then the very next night, Williamson beat Cato out of Section 3, 48-36. To go to 2-1. So Williamson coming back a little bit on the rise maybe. Clyde Savannah 74, Gananda 39 was a little bit of a surprising outcome last night, Saturday night. The Golden Eagles off to a little bit of a rough start with a tough schedule, but Gananda no pushover, but they rolled right over them. Clyde made 10 threes. Derek Chance had 18 points. Nathan Paddock had 13. Jarrett Murray had 11. And Drew Carnevale had 10. Enrique Mosman had 22 to lead the Blue Panthers. And so let's take a look at the standings in Wayne County. I can get them up here. And there you see it. East Rochester, I wouldn't say it's a surprise. We just didn't know exactly what to expect. I think they're without Theron Jones, one of their top players we expected to play a role this year, but he's not on the squad. East Rochester 2-0 start. And the other thing, we knew North Rose was going to be the class of the Wayne County this year. Nice to see Red Creek have a good team. They'll contend. Clyde also in a bit of a rebuilding process still, but big win over Gananda. But the surprise is Lions at 0-2. It's just not something you usually see.
No, and they played two teams that are going to be towards the top of the league. I think in ER and Red Creek.
Yeah.
I'm sure Coach Young would have liked to get that Red Creek win at home. It was a tough game and really an odd game in that it was kind of seesaw game. Then Lions took a big lead. You're kind of like, oh, this is over. Then all of a sudden, Red Creek goes on an 18-2 run and kind of took control of that game. But I think Wayne County, clearly North Rose is the cream of the crop there. I think they have a good chance to go undefeated in Wayne County. Then you throw in ER, Clyde Lions are probably all mixed in together. Red Creek. And then I think the bottom of this league is kind of weak. When you look at a Marion, Sodas, I think that Williamson, even looks like Gananda's down this year. So I think there's a couple different tiers in this league. But, the top 4 or 5 teams are going to be competitive with each other. And then, I think the bottom teams are kind of rebuilding again this year.
Yeah, and I don't see Lions staying there at the bottom half. I think they'll work their way back in when they play some of the lesser teams in the league. And I also think that they can play with any team in that league, including North Rose. It's just a lot of change on that roster this year. And, again, we'll say it again, Justice Smith, good place to start for Lions. So that kid's really great. If you get a chance to watch them, I think the next time we have Lions is in a couple weeks. They're hosting North Rose-Wolcott. So you might want to watch that webcast. Or if you want to check out Justice Smith, you can watch the replay of the Mid-Lakes game, Lions Mid-Lakes at the Chiropractic College or Red Creek Lions last Tuesday, and they were both available at fingerlakes1.tv or our YouTube channel at fingerlakes1.com. So, Verk, for the first time this year, it's time to unveil our Players of the Week. We each pick one, and, I guess I'll let you go first, Verk. I'll let you have your pick of the whole league for Player of the Week.
I'll go with Brandon Hawkins, 25 versus RCMCS and 27 versus Wilson. Two very, teams that are supposed to be good this year, RCMCS and Wilson. And he stepped up to the task and put up some numbers and got some victories for Palmac and had a nice showing against Wilson.
Yeah, and the thing with Hawkins is, when we talked about Palmac and we did our preseason Players of the Year, we had Damian Wright up there. We knew Hawkins was a good player, but it looks like he's really ready to have a breakout type of year. And if he can continue to score that way, nobody's as good as Palmac in the East, I think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out with their, they got 3 or 4 guards. If they can get some rebounding, they're going to be tough.
My Player of the Week, I thought about Jake Jones. He had 8 3-pointers, but then he didn't follow it up with a great game the next time around Thursday night. And then Willie Meyer I thought about for Red Creek. He had 29-11, but it was against Cato. Didn't have a great game against Lions. And then they lost to North Rose. So I ended up going with Keith Butler from East Rochester. 23 points in the win over Williamson, and then 20 points in the win over Lions. And I think, you'll be seeing those 20-point games coming from Butler all season long in Wayne County. So there you go, Verk. Brandon Hawkins of Palmac, Keith Butler of East Rochester, this week's Upstate Hoops podcast, Wayne Finger Lakes Players of the Week. Well, we promised that we would unveil our girls' Super 6 rankings this week, and we don't break promises around here at the Upstate Hoops podcast. Usually we don't. So let's get it right up there, Verk. There's our inaugural Girls Super 6. And, the first thing that some people might say is, I'll read down through them first. We got Palmac at 6, Geneva at 5, Mid-Lakes at 4, Newark at 3, Wayne at 2, and Minders at 1. And some people say, well, geez, Minders lost twice this week. But it was to Bishop Kearney and West Hill, 2 of the better girls teams in New York State. And Kearney up a classification, West Hill not in Minders class. So they Minders has a lot coming back. They lose Cassie Rattray, but that program is stacked top to bottom with great players starting first and foremost, Burke, with Heidi Miller.
Yeah, obviously losing Rattray is a big loss for them. She did a little bit of everything, and they're trying to replace her by committee. I think Coach Anderson was pretty happy with the way they played against Bishop Kearney. Friday night against West Hill, they didn't play too great from what I heard. But like you said, it's good competition, good way to start the season off. And now they go to Geneva, who is going to be right up there with them for the Finger Lakes East this year.
Geneva has some big losses of their own.
Sure, a lot of talent left that league last year. They had a couple girls. The girl from Palmac who scored
Ashley Vanderwall, she's out.
Yeah, she's playing Division II ball. There's a lot of good players in that league last year. Wayne lost a couple good girls as well. A lot of good returning talent too, but. For the first time in a while, Minders, I think, is going to be able to compete in that league because, even though they've done so well in sectionals, they've kind of taken some big lumps during the league, I don't think they've been above 500. They might have been right around 500 last year in the league, and the year before they only won 2 or 3 league games. So, it's a thing. Minders have gotten a lot better. The league's come down a little bit, and, Minders has a great place to start in Heidi Miller. She girls, 20 and 10 pretty much on a regular basis. I would expect that of her.
Get some good upperclassmen leadership. Divya Tuari, Madison Hillmeyer.
Sure. And the main girl, she's another big girl.
Yeah.
Who, they got two tall, athletic girls inside. I can't imagine anybody else in the East is going to be able to match up with both those girls. But it'll be interesting to see. Wednesday night will be a good test for Coach Collins. Always does a great job with his Geneva girls, and Minders is getting right into league with a big challenge.
And I can't wait to see on Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? No, Wednesday night will be Dave Bark and Kevin Korzaneski will be in Geneva for varsity night doubleheader, girls boys doubleheader, Minders versus Geneva. Should be a couple of great games, and it'll be our first look at a couple of girls teams this year. So we're excited about that. The girls game tips off at 6, and the boys shortly following. So there's a girls Super 6. Now it's time for our updated power rankings on the boys' side, and we finally had some serious results where we can start to put this thing together. And let me just get this thing up here instead of revealing them one by one. Let's just get this up here for everybody to see. This week's power rankings features Minders still at 1, so we got Minders 1 of the girls and the boys.
Hometown cooking.
Yeah, it could be, but honestly, great win by Minders against Early College, and while they still haven't really put it together, everything from the rotation to the victories like looking really good. Like they snuck by Clyde after kind of giving up a bit of a lead, and then they survived Early College, and then they beat a team I don't know anything about, Rochester Academy.
They weren't very good.
So they're sitting there at 1 still. With league play on the horizon, Palmac at 2, and this was a thing where this was very close this week. Palmac gained ground on Minders because even in a loss to Wilson, but the competition that Palmac played, they were impressive. And then North Rose kind of sitting steady at number 3. The big question is the best team in Waynes County, how do they compete with the best team in the East or the West? And we tend to give the edge to the East historically, but North Rose did beat Geneva pretty handily, but as you'll see, Geneva dropped right out of the top 10 this week with a couple of losses. Newark at 4 still, they stay at 4, 2 losses, not league. And Newark, I guess, is like you said, Verk, we heard about they're not going to lose much. They lost Tyler Collins and Shamar Logans, Mitchell DeWolf, another guy. But we kept hearing, they're going to be fine, they're back. And, I do believe that's true, but I'm maybe not quite there yet. I would have liked to see him maybe come out of Victor with 1 win, 1 or 2 wins maybe.
Yeah, I mean, losing Collins and Logans it's 2 huge losses. Collins is doing very well in college, and, those are tough kids to replace. But, Newark has a great program, and, they're going to be towards the top of the league this year, no doubt about it.
And then Penn Yan jumps right up to number 5 with their win over Waterloo, and just a strong, balanced team. I did see a tweet from Austin Finger who said he played his last varsity basketball game. Don't know what that's about, but I know he's a really good lacrosse player. So, maybe that has something to do with it, that he's going to be, focusing on lacrosse because he might play that at the next level. But that's a kind of a big loss for Penn Yan. But Sean Emerson's, is kind of their leader, and just a deep team of athletes. So Penn Yan's at 5 right now, and we'll see how they do over the next few weeks. Naples jumps up to 6. Despite the good start, I still don't think they're quite as good as last year's team, which I think got up as high as 3 in our rankings at one point. Pretty high for a Finger Lakes West team. So they're at 6. Mid Lakes, kind of a shocker, now up to 7 with another couple wins. Again, I seem to think that they are just as good as most of the Finger Lakes East, except for maybe the top 2 or 3, but maybe they could compete. They got a really balanced team with a sophomore Bryce Burry at point, Kenny DeVay, senior leader, big man who can distribute the ball very well too. Justin Hoover impressed me defensively and on the boards for Mid Lakes, and of course Darren Carswell coming over for Lions, grabbing 15 rebounds in their opener. Pete Zirkus's Mid Lakes team, maybe we're even underestimating them still at 7. I can't wait to see him play a few more games.
I think they're right in there. I don't think they're going to be towards. I think they're going to struggle with some of the better teams in the East, but they could beat any team in the East as well. I think they're going to be middle of the pack in Finger Lakes East this year, but much improved from last year.
And then Waterloo drops to 8 after that 2-point loss at Penn Yan. Kind of a tough way to start, but they'll have some big games coming up, and we've talked many times about the talent on that roster and just working on the chemistry, and with a new coach taking over, Paul Dinan taking over for Jeff Panic.
Kevin Dinan.
Kevin Dinan. That's a bit of a shakeup there. We'll see if they can pull it together as they head into the league schedule. And ER at 9 might be way underrated. They have shown us nothing otherwise this year. Look forward to seeing them play a few more games and see if they truly are going to be a challenge to North Rose up top of the Wayne County League. And then Les Miller's Dundee Scots slide in at number 10 at 2-0. So there you go, Verk, our Week 2 Wayne Finger Lakes Power Rankings. Dundee, East Rochester, Waterloo, Mid Lakes, Naples, Penn Yan, Newark, North Rose-Wolcott, Palmac, and number 1 now for the third straight week, if you count our preseason rankings, is the Minders Academy Blue Devils, your alma mater, my alma mater. So let's take a quick look at the week ahead before we head out here on a Sunday morning. What do you think about the Sunday morning podcast? I kind of like it. We were Sunday night last year.
Yeah, it's it's wake up and come to a podcast and
have the whole rest of the day.
Sure,
watch football or
hang out.
Watch
Homeland tonight at 9.
Is it a season premiere or something?
It's no. It's there's 3 shows left in the season, so it's my favorite show going, and look forward to it every Sunday.
Big Homeland fan. Yeah, well, you don't have to tape it now because we're doing a podcast on Sunday night. Although I should mention I'll be back here tonight at 9 o'clock for the Upstate Orange podcast, where we'll talk about a pretty interesting week in Syracuse basketball. They lose to Wisconsin. And then at Georgetown with Mike Hopkins coaching, it's just like everything's kind of weird there. But, we'll talk about that tonight. Right now, let's focus on the week ahead in the Wayne Finger Lakes leagues. Monday night, we have 3 games: Gananda at Williamson, Hannibal out of Section 3 at Sodus, and then RCMCS at North Rose-Wolcott. That'll be an interesting one, although RCMCS has definitely not lived up to kind of what we thought they'd be. We thought they'd be really tough tests so far, and everybody's handling them.
Yeah, I think they're still a dangerous team, but, they got a couple early season losses. Palmac handled them by 20. So I'm sure Coach Hoyt has I like North Rose to win that game, but I wouldn't be shocked if that game's close, or even if RCMCS was able to win that game.
Tuesday night, you got Palmac at Wayne. You got Penn Yan at Newark, and that's a game that will be live webcast on FL1 Sports beginning at 7:30. Brendan Harrington and Tane Robinson will have the call for that one. We're really that's very interesting given Newark's 0-2 start and Penn Yan beating Waterloo. Very interesting game. Hope you'll join us live for that one. Waterloo at Mid Lakes on Tuesday night also. And again, I'm really excited to see Mid Lakes continue to play and see, how they do against these teams. That's a huge early season game for both of those teams. If Waterloo loses, they're 0-2. If Mid Lakes loses, they start off 0-1 in the league, and of course they finished last place the past several years in the East, so they don't want to start off the season right there. And then, so let me ask you, Verk, about these three, about the Penn Yan Newark game and the Waterloo Mid Lakes. Give me your winners on Tuesday night.
I'll take Newark and Waterloo.
Okay, fair enough. And then we got some West action on Tuesday night. Bloomfield at HAC, Dundee at Red Jacket, Honeoye at Romulus, and South Seneca at Marcus Whitman. Moving ahead to Wednesday night, double back-to-back nights for the Finger Lakes One sports team this week, as we'll be live webcasting that Minders at Geneva game at 7:30, along with the girls at 6. Actually, the boys will probably start a little later than that, but league play getting underway for both Minders and Geneva. And then we have some Wayne County action on Wednesday night. Gananda at North Rose-Wolcott, Lions at Sodus, Red Creek at ER, which is a pretty good game there, and Williamson at Marion. And then on Thursday night, 4 Finger Lakes West games on tap. HAC at South Seneca, Marcus Whitman at Dundee, and that's a big one. And Naples at Romulus, and I don't mean to laugh, but Naples is going to win that game by 40.
Yep.
And Red Jacket at Honeoye. And then on Friday night, full slate across Wayne County in the Finger Lakes East. Geneva at Pelmac, Mid Lakes at Penn Yan, Newark at Minders, 7:30. And I think we'll probably find a way to make it out to the gym for that one, even though we're not broadcasting it. Wayne at Waterloo, Clyde at Williamson, Gananda at Red Creek, Marion at Lyons, and Sodus at East Rochester. I'm going to put you on the spot again, Verk. I want winners of Mid Lakes, Penn Yan, and Newark Minders.
Mid Lakes, Penn Yan. I'll take Mid Lakes, and Newark Minders was the other one you asked about.
Yeah, Newark at Minders.
I'll take Minders.
Yeah, that game might be a pick. Minders -2, let's say. And then Saturday night, December 12th, Waterloo at Greece Odyssey and South Seneca at Union Springs at Section 4. And that wraps up a full week of action, which should answer a lot of questions for us. And so when we're back here next Sunday night with an updated power rankings and we run through things again, we'll have a lot to talk about. So, Verk, thanks for coming in on a Sunday morning. Happy holidays. And,
Should be an interesting week, getting into... when you talk about, especially the Finger Lakes East really sticks out to me, like every game seems like a good game. You know what I mean? There's no, no game that's not really an interesting that shouldn't be close. And
because of the top half, there's no bottom half, it looks like, in the East. It
seems like, even the bottom teams in the East are, I think, the league winner in the East might have 2, 3, 4 losses this year. It could be that kind of league this year. I don't look for any team to do what Newark did last year, go undefeated in the league. And really didn't face too much competition. I think Minders finished second. They blew the doors off them twice.
I think the closest game was a Waterloo game last year for Newark. Remember that one?
Yep.
So yep, should be a great week as we make our way towards Christmas here. 2 live webcasts on tap. Tuesday night, Penn Yan at Newark. Wednesday night, varsity night doubleheader. Geneva Minders, boys, girls in Geneva. We hope you'll join us for both of those games. And then, of course, we'll be back here most likely next Sunday morning. Check the front page of FingerLakes1.com for the time. We'll either go at 9, 10, maybe even 11 some weeks, and then occasionally Sunday nights this week. We're going to be flexible as our schedules with kids and everything. And, Verk, you ever stop to think about what's going to happen when our girls are playing, JVs and varsity and basketball and, it's going to be different kind of covering these games.
Yeah, it'll might have to do some more girls coverage, obviously. So
we'd hear a lot of crap if we started covering the girls heavily when our kids were up there, because we got.
We're gonna have to be at the games anyway, so
that's right. That's right. We'll probably have a little more knowledge by that time. Yeah.
That's a few years away yet, though. So.
Yep. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So I want to thank everybody for joining us for another edition of the Upstate Hoops podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher.com. We'll see you here next Sunday. Check out the front page of FingerLakes1.com for our live webcast start time. So until then, for Matt Verkey, I'm Jim Sinacropi. Have a great week, and good luck out there, everybody.